What is up, people of the internet? It is Pastor Alex back at you with another video for Christ Redemption Church. We are here in Johnson City. You should check us out if you're looking for a ministry that's sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ through worship, the word, and inclusion, and we'd be happy to have you. We meet every Saturday at 7 p.m. at Franny's Vegan Cafe after hours. But today, it was requested that we talk about Mark 13. Now, Mark 13 is a very in-depth study here, and I want to do it justice. So it may end up being broken up into various parts, so various videos. I'm not sure how many, but in today's video, we're going to kind of look at a running kind of synopsis of Mark, and then we're going to look at kind of the historical side of it as well. We'll dive into the theology and everything else. We'll see how I break this up, and let's get into it. So the setting here, if you see me looking off, by the way, I'm looking at my notes, but the setting here is that Jesus is leaving the temple in Jerusalem. And when a disciple who comments on it's how amazing it is, how grand it is, and Jesus responds with like a shocking prophecy that the temple will be destroyed, where he says, "And Jesus answered and said to him, Do you see these great buildings? No one stone shall be left upon another, that shall not be thrown down." And that's verse 1 and 2. That's the prophecy. He's predicting that there will be no stone left unturned from this temple. And there is some arguments here that this actually does end up getting fulfilled in history, but we'll get into that later. If we go down through verses 3 through 13, these were more signs of the times. Privately on Mount of Olives, Peter, James, John, and Andrew had asked Jesus when this will happen and what signs to expect. And so Jesus warns that there's going to be false messiahs that are going to appear, that wars, earthquakes, famines will occur, but these are just like the beginnings of birth pains. And he also talks about persecution, and it will fall onto his followers. And he talks about the gospel must be first preached to all nations before the end. And then again, we're going quick here, but verses 14 through 23 is desolating sacrilege. So basically a cryptic reference to a future event where something sacrilegious, blasphemous will defile the holy place. And Jesus warns people to flee when they see this happen. A period of crazy, unparalleled distress is going to follow that. And then in verses 24 through 27, there is going to be a cosmic disturbance and the Son of Man. And so after the tribulation, he says that a heavenly sign will mark the coming of the Son of Man in power and glory. And then angels will gather the elect. Now, some people try to use this as rapture. I've done another video on the rapture theology. Go check that out. I'm not necessarily addressing that here. And so in verses 28 through 31, we talk about this fig tree lesson that Jesus gives. He says that just as a budding fig tree signals summer, so the signs will point to the coming fulfillment. Jesus says this generation will not pass away before all this happens. We'll look at that in greater detail as well. There's a lot of symbolism, a lot of throwback to Old Testament verses. Again, this is just a quick overview. Verses 32 through 37 says, stay alert. That's what the point of it says. No one knows the exact hour, not even the Son. Only the Father, only God knows when this is going to take place. And so it says, therefore, stay awake and alert, like servants waiting for the master's return. So outside of theology, we're going to look at the historical side, and then in later videos, we will address the theological components to this. Mark 13 was likely written just before or shortly after the destruction of the Second Temple around 70 CE. which was a huge moment in Jewish and Roman history. And so this is kind of what happens in that. So there was the Jewish-Roman War, which was in 66 to 73 CE, where there was the Jewish rebellion. It broke out against Roman rule. That was 66 CE, and it was sparked by taxation, corruption, and religious tension. And then you have the Roman general Titus, son of Emperor Vespasian, led the siege of Jerusalem. And then in 70 CE, Roman forces breached the city walls and destroyed the Second Temple, fulfilling Jesus' predictions in the eyes of early Christians. And the destruction of the temple was a catastrophic event for Jewish identity and religion, and it ended the centrality of temple-based worship and priesthood. Early Christians interpreted this destruction as validation of Jesus' warnings. So another aspect to this is that there was a lot of political instability within the Roman Empire around this time, about the 60s CE. It was a lot of turmoil, right? So Nero was erratic, had an erratic rule, and it ended in suicide in 68 CE. Then you have what is called the Year of the Four Emperors, about 69 CE. And that followed with civil war, multiple emperors in just a short span of time. And then you have Vespasian, who took power, and that began the Flavian, I never say that right, dynasty. And then, of course, you have the rise of apocalyptic literature. I mean, it was common already, but it became even more popular. Mark 13 actually reflects the Jewish apocalyptic genre common in this period. Books like Daniel, First Enoch, parts of the Dead Sea Scrolls, they featured like this cosmic signs, angelic messengers, and encoded warnings. And so it was giving hope to these oppressed communities, and it kind of framed a national tragedy into spiritual terms. Now, Mark 13 does read like apocalyptic warnings, but it was also like a coded commentary on like real political, military, and social upheaval. Whether or not readers believed Jesus' words as prophecy, the text mirrored very real experiences: war, destruction, like hoping for and longing for deliverance, just as the Roman Empire had been cracked down violently, or had cracked down violently on Jewish autonomy. Now, there is theological implications because there's so much that hyperlinks to various aspects of the scripture. This was more of a historical view of it. In another video, I want to really get into the meat of the theology behind this. So I hope you stay with me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.